welcome back. Over the last several years, the San Diego Food Bank has implemented a sustainability program to reduce our impact on the environment. The program not only helps the environment, it also reduces costs associated with utilities and waste. San Diego Food Bank CEO Jim Floros is back with us, along with San Diego Food System Alliance Executive Director Ellie Brown, to tell us more about the Food Bank's energy-saving initiatives. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Ellie, I'll start with you really quickly because I think it would be interesting to explain really what the Food System Alliance does, what your mission is in order to sort of reduce waste.
Sure. Yeah, our mission is to cultivate a healthy, sustainable, and just food system in San Diego County. So when I talk about a food system, we're talking about the system of food, all the way from producing the food, access of the food, distribution of the food, all the way to the waste issue. So we, because our mission is really big, we bring together a powerful network of organizations committed to the issue of our food system. So including the San Diego Food Bank, which is a really important stakeholder within our network.
And so, Jim, we kind of touched on that a little bit, but there's several different ways to go about this and really to have that zero impact, but also to not waste food itself.
Well, one of the things you learn is that hunger has nothing to do with there not being enough food. First of all, we're producing way too much food, and you know the amount of food that's perfectly good that's destroyed every year is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So one of the programs is called Food Rescue or Fresh Rescue, and you take product that, like I explained to people, if it's in your refrigerator on Monday, you'd eat it. On Tuesday, you're thinking, yeah, we can eat that. Wednesday, you're thinking about throwing it away. Thursday, you're throwing it away. But there's a 2 to 3 day period there where that food is perfectly good. So we partner with Vons in particular, and we get that product. We have that network of 500 nonprofits. So we assign them the stores. They go actually and pick up the product, and then they get it out to their service population pretty quickly, within 24 hours. And last year, we did about 5 million pounds of food through that program.
Wow, because this idea of shelf life is something, and what we're allowed to put on store shelves versus what we can eat. Right. The food bank might be able to get food to people and in mouths a lot sooner than stores. And
the science to what we're doing is that just fresh rescue is not enough to provide food security for people, because if they have to go and get food every 3 days or 4 days, that's not providing them the security they need. They need to be able to have time to go to school, go to work, or what have you. So you need that complement between the food rescue and the shelf stable. So I think last year we had a great mix. We did 32 million pounds of food. 5 million of that was through the fresh rescue program, but the rest was more sustainable food that provides people that comfort of having that sustainability, that security.
Ellie, where do you see the biggest hole, the biggest gap that needs to be addressed when we talk about food waste?
Yeah, so as Jim alluded to, 40% of the food that's produced in this country goes straight to landfill. And so that's not only a moral issue because of the tremendous amount of food insecurity we have in this region, but it's also wasted natural resources, labor and energy that's being expended to produce the food. So in fact, food waste is one of the biggest contributors to climate change. Food waste in landfill causes methane, which contributes to climate change. So you know, food waste is a tremendous issue, but when we look at the data, and consumers and consumer-facing businesses generate 70% of the waste. So that's really empowering because it means that we have a lot of control over what we can do around this issue. So San Diego Food System Alliance right now is focused on consumers and consumer-facing businesses. Because of this, we have a county-wide food waste campaign happening right now called Save the Food San Diego, that's really trying to teach people, bringing back that conservation ethic and those aha moments, like, for example, with asparagus. Did you know that the proper way to store asparagus is in a fridge, in a jar? Or did you know that you really can't trust date labels at the stores?
Oh, that's for sure.
I learned that lesson early on, and it's really interesting because there's so much misinformation out there. And when you look at the bigger picture, I mean, you think of the amount of waste in one household versus you compile that and you talk about how much is in a landfill that just goes to waste. It's shocking. And so I bet when you hear all these numbers, Jim, that's why you kind of think about, okay, let's take a look at what we're doing in our own house. And so now you have solar panels on the food bank, and you're talking about composting some of the food that is wasted.
Well, and we found it's kind of interesting because our job is not necessarily environmental. It's about feeding people. But we found out if we were more environmentally conscious, we would save a lot of money, which would result in feeding a lot more people. So we've gone through this major effort. So we have 1,400 solar panels on the roof. That saves us $120,000 a year, which equates to 600,000 meals. We've done all kinds of other environmental issues, and then we have our on-site composting and recycling. We were putting 600,000 pounds of refuse in the landfill each year. Now we're a zero-waste facility, and we take food product and we turn it into compost in 5 days. In 5 days. And then we take that compost and we give it to our nonprofit partners that have community gardens. So kind of a nice story. Food product, we turn to compost, we give it to our nonprofits for free. They grow fresh fruits and vegetables, which is the keeping of us being a nutrition bank. We've won a bunch of awards, but the best one, we were awarded a LEED Gold version 4 award a couple years ago. First food warehouse in the world to achieve that.
Congratulations.
Is that cool? That is so cool.
That is cool. I mean, and this is really, I guess where you come in, Ellie, and try and put these organizations together, because if you don't know where you could put your compost to use, if you might not be able to use it, then you don't know that we can all work in this kind of symbiotic relationship to have a better outreach program. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think the most powerful part of this issue is that there are so many organizations committed to this cause and coming together and working collaboratively and innovatively. And now there's a state mandate that says you must ban food waste from landfill. So how can we address this issue? We don't have enough composting facilities. So what we're trying to encourage is first reducing food waste, then donating, then recycling, like the anaerobic digester at the food bank. And everybody is collaborating around this idea in San Diego.
I mean, is this something, I know you talked about businesses and companies being the biggest contributor to some of this waste that's happening, but is this something that should eventually trickle down to individual households? I mean, I feel we could all learn a little more about how we can use some of our waste. I mean, obviously solar panels have caught on, and as you mentioned, Jim, the less you have to spend on your electric bill, then obviously the more you can put into helping families. So is it going to trickle down eventually? I mean, a lot of families are starting to get on board with this.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, 70% of the waste, it comes from consumers and consumer-facing businesses. So we have so much power in what we do. And so really it's just creating those aha moments in terms of how much waste we're producing by not being aware, that we have these huge fridges in this country and a lot of things end up rotten. Yeah. So what can we do to really maximize that shelf life and create systems in place in your home so that you're not wasting as much?
Well, hopefully we created a few aha moments this morning. Thank you both. Appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That'll